on what hitbox the up B interacts with it, but certainly in the neutral, Sephiroth is going to be looking to have the advantage here because Ness's hitboxes, they certainly don't have the range that the sword gives you, and that disjoint is going to be very difficult for Ness to work around, but he does have the speed, he does have the combos, and side selects certainly the player that can make it happen.
Yeah, and one problem that Sephiroth seems to run into is that he's not as heavy for how big he is, and Ness is known for having some pretty explosive KO power. So we're going to see maybe some Sephiroth stocks disappear earlier than you're anticipating, but again, with the sword, with the spikes, I think Sephiroth can actually do a fantastic job as well, taking early stocks on Ness.
Absolutely, but I mean, Ness, known for these Magnet and PK fire subs, Radiaz accidentally fast falling there with the back air, trying to put some pressure onto Ness as he recovers. Not going to make it happen. That's actually a setup we saw from Radiaz earlier in the day in pools. Radiaz loves these up smashes on PS2 platforms. They just cover the entire thing, and it's so difficult to get around because you can't quite jump. It just covers too much space.
Oh, and countering the wrong way. Radiaz kind of maybe showing nerves or maybe not retaining the warmed up hands from playing in the pools phase earlier, but just another
maybe neither of them are.
Yeah, maybe they're both kind of trying to find their footing here, you know, make their way back to stage here as they're brawling it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a rambunctious venue, certainly a lot to consider here. There's Rocket League playing right above the players, so yeah, they may have to take some time to get used to the environment, get used to playing again. They have had a bit of a break after the pools phase, making sure that all the bracket was reseeded, and now we're in this final phase, and they're getting used to the game again. Sicelux playing very aggressive here, trying to keep the pressure onto this Sephiroth. Definitely don't want to play this sort of mid-range game against him. Radiaz has been thriving in that environment, has been thriving in the environment where Ness is above him. Ness is definitely going to want to stay lower than eye level, as Ness does get a lot off of being short here. But here's the offstage we were talking about, Budwar. Oh, and there's the counter break.
Breaking. Yeah, and so the thing about Ness using his recovery is that he's very susceptible to getting two framed, which is when you're grabbing the ledge, there's 2 frames where you're vulnerable. And Sephiroth has a huge spike hitbox he can use to exploit that interaction. However, Sicelix, while the edge guard is behind us, finds the dash attack, takes that stock center stage.
Yeah, and there's, to your point, that lightness of Sephiroth coming into play. You know, Midway may not have lost the stock due to that dash attack, but here is an offstage scenario utilizing the PK flash to make sure that you don't quite get hit by that down air that you were talking about, and is going to find themselves safely back on stage. And a huge PK fire there is going to rack up the percent. Radiaz finds himself at 100%.
Right, this is just so much damage. You're going to be finding yourself losing your stock to just fast moves now, and that's really not what you want. Usually when you're at that 90% range, Ness is looking for that back air, very telegraphed. But right now, if you're going to come off this Angel Plat with invincibility, you can just throw out whatever move you want. You're going to find a stock.
Yeah, and there we go. We see Sicelix going immediately down with the down B, the magnet there, wanting to, you know, combo that into an aerial or whatnot, and then just calling out the out of shield option there from Radiaz, catching the next option. Sicelix putting on the pressure early here in this first set, and it's going to be up to Radiaz to figure out how, what's going to be the counterplay here. We saw some of those amazing edge guards that you brought up earlier, dipping down nice and low with that forward air, but yeah, that counter may not be that useful of a tool. We may have to go for more down airs. We may have to go for more. I've even seen side B work as an edge guard to like snap Ness out of his up B animation. Maybe that's something that Radiaz may attempt, but going to a stage like Kalos, certainly trying to get more stage and space away from this Ness.
Right, and I think also we've been seeing those edge guards. Radiaz is finding damage, but not finding the stocks the same way that Sicelix was finding both damage and stocks very efficiently. Already up to 84% on Radiaz, but the one wing online may be able to answer back fairly quickly.
Yeah, Sephiroth does have that comeback mechanic that gives him that extra jump, as well as some super armor on his smash attacks, but he might not have it for long as the back throw will take it. Sephiroth dying at 101 to that.
It's just the kill power here is about even, but I think that because Sephiroth needs to be utilizing the sword and finding those edge guards, where I think Ness can create situations kind of vertically in the air with the back air, with using that neutral air, as well as threatening the ground with grab. There's just so much presence.
Absolutely, and those PK Thunders to creep above the ledge have also been getting a lot of mileage here for Cycilics. Definitely a mix-up that Radiaz has not been familiarized with, and that's really catching them on the ledge trap, which is where Sephiroth gets a lot of value, and Ness getting these recoveries here and getting back to the stage and being able to utilize this such fast pressure. Oh, catches the roll there, but doesn't quite react to it. That's definitely what Cycilics wanted there, but didn't quite get the punish.
It was one of those situations where as a player, you're like, I'm going to cover the roll, but you maybe aren't ready for the timing, so when it happens, your brain's fried. You know, you're like, oh, whoops, I missed it.
I think Radiaz might be feeling the pressure here as Cycilics, just bounces back and gets punish after punish. And now when you have the one wing, you certainly need it to make this comeback as you try to juggle this Ness, but he safely finds the floor and a counter punch off stage on Kalos is going to find the late hit of that PK rocket is going to be able to be countered. But you're so down at this point, you do still have the one wing to your name, so that will be helpful. But Sephiroth can't get a lot of damage quickly without some scare tactics here.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those stocks where you're going to have to find yourself hitting Ness pretty deep off stage, maybe with a combo throw, and then you're going to have to hit the edge guard. You're really only going to get one or two more chances at this 103%. But finding hit after hit, finding the stock, you are in a good position right now if you want to mount a comeback.
What a great juggle there from Radiaz, just keeping this Ness in the air. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Ness not having a lot of great options to land, especially versus such a large sword. And if we see one of those edge guards that you're talking about right now, Radiaz might just take game number 2.
Oh, I don't know if you make it out.
It's going to be close. It's not going to happen. To the very corner of Kalos, that lightness of Sephiroth is going to come out once more, Mikey, and that is going to do it. Man, even on Kalos there, 127, Ness back throw is just too strong.
Yeah, and even going all the way to the corner wasn't enough to maintain the stock. Like, I was thinking, oh, wow, look at the angle that Sephiroth is going at. Looks like Radiaz has the DI down to survive these throws. But between the power of the throw and the weight of Sephiroth, it just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, it's just not enough. And top cut of bracket here. Best of 5, it looks like, so that is exciting. Glad to see some more Sephiroth gameplay. We really saw Radiaz come alive, especially in the juggle game at the end of that game 2. I think they might have something to say here at the start of game 3.
This is interesting because Radiaz has lost both games, which means this last game and this current game are both stages that Radiaz chose. I'm curious as to why we went away from Kalos. Was this something that Radiaz saw and wanted to change? Or was it that Cycilics decided, oh wow, I don't want to go back there, I'm going to change one of my bands and get rid of Kalos myself?
That's a great point, and that might be the reason that we're going to such drastically different stages here in games number 2 and 3. Looks like Radiaz is going to use some of the planking potential that Sephiroth does have to create some pressure on Ness, make him not want to ledge trap as aggressively, because Cycilics has been great in that spot, and forcing him to play above is going to be the game plan. Radiaz following this Ness, beautifully going to force the air dodge here. It's going to be the counter. Yes, it is. Radiaz takes the first stock.
And this is maybe the first time we've seen Radiaz have a lead this set. So I'm curious to see how that's going to change what the set looks like, because, is when you're playing from behind and when you're playing from ahead, you're going to have two different game plans. Finding 50% before losing the stock, this is still a healthy lead.
Certainly so, and Ness now has to play a different kind of game. He has been doing a great job of executing this pressure, but he's not allowed to sort of wait for Sephiroth to make things happen. He has to make things happen himself, and Cycilics doing a great job of that, mind you, and is clawing back this lead very quickly, as Radiaz has not been able to get this Ness above him just yet. Staying at that eye level is going to be a winning strategy for Cycilics, and he's doing a great job at it, and is falling with a lot of these nairs, is catching Radiaz on these follows, and almost takes it with the up air. I mean, these Ness aerials are just so strong on Sephiroth. Almost gets the double magnet. Radiaz counting his lucky stars on that one. Big down smash there. Gonna follow this Ness off the stage. Gonna go for the flash to stall a little bit. These creative recoveries from Cycilics are great. Radiaz executing a lot of patience here, though.
And suddenly we find ourselves in a even position. Wow, making a huge gambit. Sycilic's very patient, waits for the option after to find a big punish, but still surviving. One wing online, finding the burst dash attack to surprise Radiaz, getting the stock. But usually during this invincibility is where you're going to find the counter stock.
Yeah, I would argue this burst has been what has been winning Sycilic's these games here, not only with the nairs from the sky, but with these dash attacks, with these PK fires, we're not expecting them. But Radiaz showing off some burst of his own, dealing 75% to Ness. Sycilic's knows he has to up B, but not quite getting the timing on the down air. Sycilic's is happy with getting back to stage on that one. They're going to have another chance at life here. Goes for the 0 to death there on the PK fire. Doesn't quite find it. Looks like we're going to finally return to a neutral state. But for how long? Double PK fire. Backer doesn't quite do it. Radiaz off stage again is going to try to find an answer.
This is stressful. We're talking about back air taking it. If you can get around Sephiroth, that back throw is going to take it with all that rage. An up air. Ness is just walking with these boxes that are going to KO so early. The dash attack not quite taking it, but edge guard opportunity with the extra jumps.
Will Radiaz go for a big play here? Does go for the counter, does get the late hit. It will do it. Radiaz takes his first game of the set. And yeah, that counter is so specific. If you get hit by the strong hit of PK Rocket, it does break. Seems like the late hit is pretty consistent. It does hit Ness, and that's going to be an edge guard for Radiaz. The first real successful edge guard that Radiaz is able to get. We've seen a lot of the pressure, but we haven't seen the stock actually get taken, and it makes it happen in the last stock of game number 3. I think Radiaz is really finding some footing here.
Right, and I think a big thing we saw was that maybe Radiaz wasn't familiar, is that when Ness uses PK Rocket, hitting himself with the PK Thunder, he's actually invincible for the first little bit of it. So even if the counter didn't break, you're not finding a hit on the Ness because he's invincible. So now, with Sycilic's taking the first 2 games of the set, these next 2 games, if we see a Game 5 situation, will be on his choice of stage.
Yeah, and it looks like the choice of stage is going to be Town and City. I know Sephiroth not minding the stage either. Those back airs certainly a core component in Sephiroth's toolkit to take stocks, but one of Radiaz's strengths has been keeping this Ness in the air. So maybe Ness going for that higher top blast zone to help Sycilic's live a little bit longer, but Sycilic's liking these back airs to KO as well, and likes holding Sephiroth at these ledge traps. Time City definitely going to be a volatile stage, but messing up the recovery. Sycilic's trying to cover himself with the PK Thunder there, but not going to happen.
And I think this is one of those situations where you're seeing a game 4, you're up 2-0. Maybe you want to try some adaptations early before suddenly you're in game 5 and the set's out of control. And we'll see if maybe that was just a one-off mistake, or if this is just something that Sycilic's is, I'm going to try this and see what I can do while I have breathing room.
And Sycilic's has even upped this game here. We're at a very even game number 4 here on Time City, catching the roll with the PK fire. Gotta be careful where you're going against this Ness player. But Radiaz still with the sword on his back, trying to keep this Ness away. But it's just so hard to jump when this Ness has such potent forward airs that cover in front of him. And these flanking attempts have just not been working for Radiaz. Sycilic's just has the answers.
See, whenever Ness is using that yo-yo, the answer is to get up attack. That is a written law. And Radiaz chose to neutral get up there, finding himself getting caught in the yo-yo and losing his stock there in a position that, you know, he shook his head. He's upset. And now we need to make sure that you stay alive in the set if you want to see a game 5.
Yeah, you do get to peer into the souls of the players with these amazing player cams. Love having those to watch while we watch the set, to see their reaction, see what they're happy about, what they're not. And what Sycilic's is certainly happy about is that they have max rage, and a Sephiroth at 70% on Town and City. Moves like that forward tilt are spelling disaster for Radiaz, keeping him off the stage again. The longer Sephiroth stays in his position, the closer he is to the blast zone. The jump call out with the back air is going to take it for Sycilic's.